All right, all right. Let me know if y'all can hear me good in the comments. I'm still adjusting my mic settings. How's everybody doing tonight? It's been a pretty good weekend at my house. Let me just man, my kids are something else when it comes to these mics. They just are gravitated to it, you know what I mean? So we're going to go over a few things tonight. Some news out of this new Tyson food deal that they're doing with all the sports programs. Um, apparently come to find out, and I was kind of wondering myself about this situation. Come to find out, Walmart is not going to be on the jerseys. A lot of people thought that they were, but it's an exclusive contract with Tyson Foods, believe it or not. So the number that I've heard, now this isn't confirmed, that this patch is probably going to be around the $10 million mark. Not only that, but there's a pretty good rumor going around right now about the stadium naming rights. They believe they found people to name the stadium after, which is really, really good news. Don't get me wrong. It's been like, what, 2 years? You know what I mean? Just 2 years too many. And, Pig Trail Nation had a video come out earlier today, matter of fact, and I watched it, and it kind of inspired me to make this video a little bit just because of the fact that you've got a head coach of an Arkansas high school, a fairly large high school too in Central Arkansas, talking about the recruitment process for his kids on his football team. The difference between this staff and the last staff is huge. So we're gonna watch that video and we're gonna kind of go over some of that. But yeah, if y'all just shuffled on in here, leave me a comment. Let me know how y'all are doing. I'll see if I can't. Let me turn these comments on the thing here. But yeah, so first things first, I want to talk about this young man right here. Let me see. So this is Mr. Eli Thornton. This is a kid out of Valley View. So we're gonna circle back on a lot of this stuff, and then I've got kind of like some breaking news out of today from the NBA regarding Dwight Howard. I kind of wanted to cover. I've not really done anything like this before, but it's just so crazy. It's one of those things where I'm like, there's no way that this thing can be real. No way at all. But anyway, so Eli Thornton, this is a kid. He is from Valley View. I actually used to play them in football. Kind of a preppy school, really wealthy area of Jonesboro. I've always kind of been confused as to why Jonesboro doesn't produce more D1 talent. But he's 6'3", 315. He is a top 1,000 player nationally. Somewhat, the ratings on here are somewhat unremarkable. But, I mean, looking at his offer list, he's got Wisconsin, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Mississippi State, Purdue, Vanderbilt, Wyoming, I mean, they've even got Arkansas on here twice, which is crazy. But apparently he's warm between Wisconsin and Arkansas. So I don't know if that is from Eric Mateos up there in Wisconsin or not. Obviously, Eric has ties to Arkansas, so he would know this upcoming class, who's who. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's one of those deals where Arkansas kids, and my point's going to be proven here in a second, Arkansas kids want to play at Arkansas more than out-of-state players. It's just common knowledge. You know what I mean? Look at Darren McFadden. Look at Peyton Hillis. Look at Marcus Monk. Look at Ryan Mallett. A lot of people forgot Ryan Mallett is from Arkansas. A lot of people also forgot Ryan Mallett was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school, believe it or not. And he definitely proved that he had the arm talent to compete with anybody. But all of these players, they're iconic Razorback players from the state of Arkansas. They grew up wanting to be Arkansas Razorbacks. So when they put that jersey on, they wear it with pride. It's not one of those deals where I'm just in it for the education or I'm just in it for the money. It's one of those deals where when people talk about these players, they're always players that the younger generation are looking up to, and that's invaluable. You've got to have role models and stars like that in the state. That's how you build your football culture. It's really, really important. So I'm going to play the Pig Trail Nation video. Let me pull that up. Let me do this real quick. Just give me 1 second here. And we're going to pull up this little 9-piece right here. All right. There we go. So this is the video. And I think I'm going to back it up like 5 seconds here. And we're going to play this.
And I won't say a name, but that was a coach.
Hold on.
Offers from the state of Arkansas for the class of 2027. That's a lot more than Arkansas had been offering. What's your thoughts on that, Reggie?
You have to take care of home first. Mm-hmm. And I won't say a name, but that was a coach on last year's staff who I talked to. And when I asked him, I said, "Why don't you guys recruit Arkansas?"
Can y'all hear that?
And this is what was told to me. He said, "A 4-star kid in Arkansas is really a 2-star kid in Texas. So if we're going to get a 2-star kid, we may as well get a 2-star kid in Texas that goes against 4-star kids in Texas." And I'm thinking to myself, that's not it, because when Coach Nutt was here, he recruited from Arkansas, and that's when Arkansas had some of the best years. When Coach Nutt was at Murray State, when he was dominating in Murray State, the best years, he had 17 kids from Arkansas. So Arkansas has talent, and I get so tired of people overlooking us as if we're just a state without good coaching and good talent. We have talent here, and so the fact that Silverfield is recruiting Arkansas, I love it.
Right, 100% agree with what you said. Right. You and Mike Cherry and a few others up there at Murray State.
That's enough of that. So yeah, I don't. Let me know if y'all can hear that. I'm not sure if y'all heard that. Nobody's responded to me yet, but basically what he said is that the last staff that was at Arkansas, the Sam Pittman staff, they did not put an emphasis on Arkansas kids. And so that's why you've seen this toxic locker room culture from last year. It was really, really negative. The way they performed on the field was very, very low effort. They felt like nobody cared about them. They didn't care about the state. Being a Razorback meant money or education and not the pride that a native Arkansan would have for the university. And I'm not saying that out-of-state kids don't have pride in the University of Arkansas, because that would be false. But when you have the foundation of your program built up on Arkansas high school football talent, that means something. And he talks about Houston Nutt. The way Houston Nutt would run the Arkansas program is he would go out and he would get those 2- and 3-star Arkansas football players. And then they would show the out-of-state kids how to practice, how to be a Razorback. You know what I mean? Thank you, Chris, for letting me know. It's one of those deals where when you have, like for instance, take me. If I were to be a Razorback, I may not be the most talented kid on that field, but I would give my 100% effort because I grew up dreaming of wearing that Razorback red. And I talk about it a lot. And I feel like a lot of this gets so lost in the landscape of modern college football. There's so much wrong with our sport right now. It's great that the players are getting paid, but I like what Nick Saban said. What about the education? What about, commitment? What about stuff like that? And I feel like there can be a healthy balance with both. Now, don't misconstrue my words by saying that, I want to go back to the way things were. I would like to go back to some of the aspects of the way things were. I wouldn't like to see kids transfer 3, 4, 5 times for their college career. That's a bit excessive, I feel like. And the argument that keeps getting made on Twitter, and we're fixing to turn our attention to Twitter here in a second. The argument that keeps getting made on Twitter is that coaches can do it, that coaches get paid all this money, and then coaches can leave. But the thing about coaches is you got to keep in mind they're 2 separate entities. You don't have the same rights and privileges as your boss, which is what a coach is. So why on earth would you expect players and coaches to have the same privileges? And I know people are going to call me crazy for that, but without law and order, there's chaos. And the reason why people want chaos right now is because there's a lot of places that are benefiting from it. Look at Texas Tech. Look at Indiana. I mean, Indiana had multiple super seniors on that team. Well, I use that term super senior. There was many. Indiana had one of the older rosters in college football. I don't think they had the oldest, but at the same time, and John Calipari talks about this all the time. He's like, we've got 25, 26-year-old kids playing against 18 and 19-year-old kids. Now, it's not so much a safety concern in college basketball, but Nick Saban actually said the same thing about college football. He said there is a safety concern. I'm sorry if I kind of juxtaposed that wrong, but I know how I was athletically at 25, how explosive and strong I was, and I wasn't an athlete, but I would lift weights and I would exercise, and I could tell how much stronger I was. I actually worked at a sawmill where I would flip logs all day. This was before I had an education, obviously, and just the way that I could take that punishment on my body and then dole that punishment out during the course of just my very basic job is huge. I know that 25-year-old me was stronger and more developed than 18-year-old me. I mean, it's just common sense. So basically, you've got a team like Indiana this last year that loads up their roster on these 23, 24, 25-year-old players, and they go out. And I don't know if y'all have ever seen that video of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they've got the guys fighting the teenagers, and they're like, well, why don't we just, kick their tails? And that's what they do. It's pretty hilarious. Obviously, it's, for comedy effect. But that analogy can be translated into college football. I mean, it just makes sense. If you think of somebody that's like 24 or 25 years old, they should be in the NFL. I mean, from a development standpoint, you would not put, let's say you've got a player, I don't know if y'all remember Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney, let's say it's his second or third year in the NFL, and put him back into a college football uniform. And I know, there's not a lot of ways that you can reference these two just because of the sheer amount of talent that Jadeveon Clowney had. But at the same time, look at the differences in how somebody is in the NFL. They're bigger, they're stronger. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying that I'm for an age gap, or not an age gap, but a age restriction on college football. But we're going to have to use a little bit of common sense here. What's up, Bobby? Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. I'm, a lot of changes going on with my setup. So I try to, take care of y'all the best I can. I hate if I replay video and all I can hear is like me breathing or like me smacking my lips. I can't stand stuff like that. So thank you. But yeah, when I look at the landscape of college football today, I see a whole lot of stuff that benefits the 1%. And don't get me wrong, Arkansas could kind of fall into that 1% category just because they're in the SEC. They're in a Power 4 conference. They have money for NIL, and they've got facilities. So I know I'm kind of speaking from a position of privilege, but look at a school like Arkansas State. Arkansas State will never be able to compete with Arkansas from a financial standpoint. That means they'll never be able to compete with Arkansas ever. It's not going to happen. And a part of me wants those schools to be able to compete just because that's what this sport is about. It's not about the best teams hoarding all the talent. I mean, I got so sick of Alabama and Nick Saban winning championship after championship. It just got to the point where, and you're seeing it today, so many people hate Alabama for it. And there's a lot of us, and me included, I'm kind of dancing on the Alabama program's grave a little bit. But, parity is a good thing. Now, obviously it's a whole can of worms that we'll talk about later, but, they're doing a hearing in DC right now. Well, I mean, it was, yesterday, but you get what I'm saying. They had this hearing and they had this round table, and they've got all these people from all across the landscape of college athletics, and they're all talking about ways they can fix it. And I just thought it was kind of funny that Cody Campbell was there. I know I'm a known Cody Campbell hater, I guess, but the dude is single-handedly bankrolling the most expensive roster in college football and crying about it. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Either be all in or not all in. But what I'm saying is changes are coming. I don't know what those changes are going to be, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But overall, so far, Silverfield has done everything the right way with me. Now, I would have liked to have seen him bring in more talent through the high school class they had last year, but obviously he only had 48 hours to put that class together. It's hard for me to blame him for the way Sam Pittman kind of left that recruiting class, if that makes sense. But we're not just going to talk about football today. We're going to talk about these hogs on the basketball court. I mean, I was really impressed with how they handled themselves with Missouri. First of all, I don't get why we play Missouri for the last game of, the season. Wouldn't you rather see them play Kentucky or Alabama? Or, I almost would want to see them play LSU just because, LSU is a natural rivalry for Arkansas when Missouri is not, even though we would blow out LSU and it probably wouldn't be a good game. But, I find very few things in this world more annoying than Mizzou fans. And if any of y'all have got an online presence, you know what I'm talking about. They're just, I don't know, all 10 of them are just like cringe. You get what I'm saying? I mean, if anybody says that they care about Mizzou football, they're probably, a little bit off the rocker, just a little bit. Can y'all hear me? Ricky, can you hear me? Let me adjust my mic. Can you hear me better now? Sorry about that. If I don't face the mic, then y'all can't hear me very well. But yeah, so Arkansas went into Missouri and the refs were very biased about that game, obviously. Even the announcers, if any of y'all were there or were watching it on TV, I watched the highlights of it. I caught the tail end of the game. I wasn't able to, because I had to work, unfortunately. I wasn't able to sit there and just enjoy the game. But the announcers towards the end of the game were so pro-Missouri, it was crazy. And I'm like, why? I mean, what has John Calipari done to y'all that makes y'all this way? And we've seen the same thing with the Alabama game. It's just one of those deals where a lot of times I get nervous. I've got, battered hog syndrome when it comes to close games in Arkansas, just from the football season that we had this last year. And then the debacle that was the Alabama game, which I wholeheartedly believe the SEC officials handed to Alabama. And if I'm crazy, tell me in the comments. I don't feel like I'm crazy. I feel like a lot of y'all feel the same way. But obviously, when you're at senior night in Missouri, Missouri is one of those teams where, they're never going to be able to compete with a team like Arkansas resource-wise or talent-wise. So the only way they can do it is by hyping up their crowd and, just being average Missouri fans and just, some of the stuff those fans were saying, especially to Trevin Brazil, was just despicable. And the thing about it is they did all of that and it's not getting them anywhere. I couldn't imagine being a fan. Well, I could because I'm a fan of Arkansas football. I couldn't imagine being a fan of a program like Missouri is with their basketball team and being, so mediocre, you know what I mean? And knowing that it's never going to get better. Thankfully, we've got boosters like John Tyson and a coach like John Calipari. We're very, very lucky in that regard. And I know I probably ticked off a lot of Mizzou fans that'll probably watch this and, leave me a bunch of comments and, but it is what it is. I mean, Missouri basketball is not on the same level as Arkansas basketball. Arkansas basketball has passion and it's got a wild, rabid fan base and it's got facilities. And I do admire the Missouri coach, but some of those Missouri fans were just out of line with what they were saying with TB. You know what I mean? Let's see. Patrick says it's almost a normal thing with the bias from commentators and without a doubt the refs. Yeah, And I was really worried. Like I kind of got off on a little tangent, but I was super worried about the way they were officiating it there towards the end, because to me, I felt like, how is Missouri in this game? You know what I'm saying? It just didn't make sense to me. And there were so many no calls uh, on Pringle and Ewing. They got fouled so many times that they didn't, and they didn't call the foul. I was just like, what are we doing? I mean, what is this? Is this like some sort of kangaroo court basketball situation? It was just odd. But thankfully, the better team won. So now Arkansas's got this double bye, and they're going to be able to get Darius Acuff rest. And a lot of people had question marks about Darius Acuff and the Razorbacks. I was one of those people. I was concerned about the Missouri game just because of the bias that is against Arkansas basketball, because nobody likes when you've got a program like Arkansas that can go and sign all this talent and have all this money and hype against the more traditional basketball powers, if that makes sense. Like, college basketball fans are weird in that they are like Kentucky and Duke and Kansas. You know, those are the teams that are, supposed to win. And Arkansas used to be that way in the 90s. But, the way people talk about Arkansas nowadays is like they don't have talent and they don't have a Hall of Fame head coach. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like a lot of people's negative bias gets exposed. Like John Calipari said it best. Why isn't Darius Acuff in the mix for the Player of the Year award? Not just for the SEC, but for, nationally. It just doesn't make sense. He's got the stats. And I would argue that Darius Acuff is the most important player in college basketball today, just for the way that, he runs Arkansas offensively. It just, like I said, there's just a whole lot of negative bias towards the Hogs. Yeah, Joy says, I agree with you about the announcers. As I said out loud, I guess we know who you're for. And I don't think I'm crazy. If I were crazy, people would be like, no, I mean, it was kind of both ways, but, it was just odd. And like, this is for Missouri basketball. And I know I said a lot of crazy stuff about Missouri, but, Missouri is not Kansas. Missouri is not Kentucky. And we're going to talk about Kentucky a little bit tonight because, man, you talk about having buyer's remorse for Mark Pope. Sean says it's weird. ESPN gives those vibes too. Where's the bias coming from? Yeah, I don't, and I get it. I get it for like a school like Alabama, y'all, because the SEC headquarters are in Birmingham. I even get it for a school like Kentucky. Like I said, regardless of what we think, Kentucky has a very large fan base. They've got more of a national fan base than Arkansas does, just because of their prior success. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's all Kentucky, like the university itself. I feel like a lot of it was John Calipari and the talent that John Calipari can bring in. If there's one thing we've learned from this, is universities don't win basketball games. Coaches and players do. So anytime people start talking about like prestige and stuff like that, it's probably a Kentucky fan who's experiencing one of the worst seasons they've had in a long, long time. And I seen like a crazy stat where Kentucky apparently hadn't finished like fifth or lower in the SEC like only 5 times in its existence, They're very privileged there. Clove says, hello, what's going on, Clove? I don't think I've seen you in here before. We're glad to have you. I downloaded a bunch of memes on here. I think, let me see. I've got this one.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Stuff like that. I'm going to start throwing those into the video. And I've got a bunch of crazy stuff and a bunch of sounds. But let's talk about Mark Pope. You know what I mean? Mark Pope is one of those, he's just a goober. Mark Pope. And there were people, and I called these people out at the beginning of the basketball season. Not only was I upset from the awful, terrible football year that we had, but I was upset that these people, these clowns, were going out there and saying that Kentucky was going to win the SEC this year. And I'm like, with what talent? With what coaching? How is that even possible? You know, and people were like, "Oh, it'll be Kentucky and Florida. Those are the top 2 teams." And I'm like, and I didn't say Arkansas was going to win the SEC, but I'm like, Arkansas has more talent on that team and a better coach, and y'all are just automatically giving it to Kentucky just because of, you know, nostalgia. I mean, Kentucky hasn't been good since Cal left. I mean, they went to the Sweet 16 last year and they had a good year, but a lot of those players were Cal's guys. Not all of them, because a lot of them went to Arkansas to follow Cal just because they didn't want to play for Mark Pope. But, you know, still a lot of Calipari's blueprint and DNA were in that team from last year. And I feel like that's why they were so successful. But it's obvious now that this is Pope's basketball team, that it's not working out for Mark Pope. And I, for one, I want to say that I feel bad for Mark Pope, just because all of us as Razorback fans, we could have told you that Kentucky fans are some of the worst fans in the SEC. Look at how they treated Calipari. Now, in basketball is a little bit like baseball, and sometimes the better team doesn't win. Sometimes your shots aren't falling. Sometimes the other team normally are only making like 2 or 3 threes a game. Now they're suddenly, you know, making 10, 13, 15 threes. Sometimes that happens in college basketball. You know, so it's hard for a team to win consistently all the time. And we've seen it with Nolan Richardson, who is a saint in my mind. So Nolan Richardson won the national championship in 94, was runner-up in 95, and then Nolan Richardson, one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, did not make it back to the championship game. And sometimes that's just how it is, unfortunately. Not everybody can be a Mike Krzyzewski, or what's the women's basketball coach from UConn that won all those games in a row? Something crazy. I think they won like 100-something games in a row, which was like the most in a long time. But, you know, basketball is one of those sports where all you can hope to have is a chance. You're not always going to have a Scotty Thurman or a Corliss on your team. Or, you know, you're not always going to have a John Wall or an Anthony Davis. It's one of those deals where you've got to make do with the talent that you have. And some years, the high school players are better than years previous. But some years, they're not as talented, but they still got to be given that 5-star ranking designation. So you think, well, I'm getting these 5 stars, but I can almost guarantee you that there's not going to be another point guard like Darius Acuff for a long time. I could almost put my lunch money on it. And if I'm crazy, tell me now. But that's just how it is. Darius Acuff is having a historic year. And everybody is finally, their eyes are being opened to what this kid can do. So I'm super excited about that. Speaking of basketball, I'm going to see if I could pull this up. I don't know if any of y'all have heard about this Dwight Howard situation, but we're going to go over it real quick. And I don't normally cover crazy drama like this, but we're going to do it tonight. I'm going to, hold on. Just give me 1 second here. We are going to go to Twitter now. And my mind was blown. I had no idea that Dwight Howard was having problems like this. Let me pull up my screen now. Yep. All right. So let me see if I can't find the video. But apparently Dwight Howard's wife was going through his car or something, and she pulled out. I'm just going to click on this one.
This shit right here.
Look at this.
I told everybody, y'all got my stepdaughter was just taken by CPS because of her father. CPS and the police have been here 3 times in less than 3 months, and I stood in it with my husband, even though I was scared for my own self. Whatever he wanted me to say, whatever it was, I'm thinking this is my husband. I had everybody around me saying, Even after I tried to divorce him the first time, everybody around me says, you can't leave your husband this soon. You said through sickness, through health, through this, you said through good or bad. That's why I came back, but this is going way too far. But it's not even about me. It's about the kids. The stuff that I have to go through with he had him lying. I recorded it. He was coaching our son to lie on me, and I had to record it. And it's this shit. I try to tell everybody he needs some help. And ain't nobody would have fucking listened because he got the money. I kept saying, whatever, y'all don't understand. I live with him. He needs some help. And this is it. This is what I'm fucking losing my fucking marriage to. This shit right here. I told everybody, y'all gotta help him. He is spiraling. I'm in here with him. I'm trying to love him through it.
Yeah, that's a lot of cussing. I try not to have a lot of cussing like that on my shows, just because I know not everybody's like into that. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's crazy that you've got somebody as successful as Dwight Howard, who has had all the opportunities in the world just because of his natural athletic gifts to go through something like this. And I've had family members, and I've went through a period of my life where I struggled with addiction for a little while, and it's a hard thing to be able to pull yourself out of. But I don't know. I don't know the whole story on this, but it was just so mind blowing to me that you've got this woman on here, and I feel bad for her, but in a way, it's hard for me to feel bad for her, just because not everything is everybody's business. You know what I mean? You can't expose the massive amount of drugs in your car and then cry about Child Protective Services getting involved. It's one of those deals where it's no good for anybody. You know what I mean? But I thought that was the craziest thing. Let me know. And it kind of reminds me, I lived in Benton for a little while, and there were some girls in Benton that were kind of like that. You know what I mean? That just were caught up in that, lifestyle. And it was really hard to see your friends and stuff like that go through situations like that where, either they or their partner are struggling with addiction. And I've got a lot of empathy for addicts, having been an ex-addict myself, who kind of, was able to pull myself out of that a little bit. But it's just, it's hard to see, just because, I was a Dwight Howard fan when I was younger, and, just the stuff that's, came out about Dwight Howard, in the last few years, it's kind of changed my whole perspective on things like that. Before I go, we're going to look, I'm going to have to end this one just a little bit early. We're going to look at Brandon Marcello's Twitter profile, because he said something interesting about the Tyson Foods deal. And we're going to cover that just real quick while I got you here. So like I was saying, Walmart is not going to be putting patches on the jerseys. Apparently this deal with Tyson Foods is an exclusive deal. So that's got to be worth a crazy amount of money. Brandon, who is an ex-Arkansas alum, says Tyson Foods will be the only sponsor on jerseys. It's in the agreement. In the future, and this deal runs for 5 years. It says in the future there could be other sponsors on batting helmets, but no such plans yet. Hunter Yurachek told me earlier this week. But yeah, and apparently Tracy Darr was the first one that came out with this. So let me know what y'all think about that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every Arkansas fan owes it to John Tyson to go out and buy some Razorback nuggets or go to Chick-fil-A or one of the two. Because, the guy is single-handedly saving Arkansas sports, not just basketball. I firmly believe that they're going to pull in the talent next year to compete in the SEC. And I believe with this crop of coaches that we've got now, that they can get it done. Now, will they get it done? That's going to be, yet to be seen. But, yeah, we've went a little bit over 30 minutes. We're going to call it here. So if anybody has any thing they want to say or anything, say it now. Yeah, I've had a really good week. I wish I didn't have to work on the weekends sometimes. That way I could spend more time with my family and with y'all. Time is so very important. All right, y'all. Had a pretty good show tonight. I'm really hoping to start doing this, the live streams more often. I feel like, I get a chance to go out and connect with y'all. And I've got the software set up to where we can do call-in shows if that's something y'all are interested in. User says, thanks, man. Good show. Yeah, I appreciate y'all too. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.